Hello YouTube, D-Decken here, and with Bunny Day coming up around the corner, what better way to celebrate that than a Pick-a-Gift campaign featuring bunnies and chocolate and springtime and all the fun essential things you can possibly imagine for that coming day. So we didn't quite get that, and that not only makes this kind of a weird Pick-a-Gift, but also a lot weirder of a Pick-a-Gift, as you can see. But first, what is the Pick-a-Gift campaign? Well, every day when you log in, you get to choose between 1 of 3 items. You pick 1 to keep, and the other 2 are discarded. You don't get them. The idea behind this event is for you to pick the items you think are best for you. Some are great, some are meh, but that is for you to decide. And that is, of course, the Pick-a-Gift campaign. Now, like I said, there are, no bunnies inside this Pick-a-Gift campaign. No chocolate, no nothing. So, is this supposed to be a Bunny Day related Pick-a-Gift, or is it supposed to be a springtime related Pick-a-Gift, or a quarantine related Pick-a-Gift? I don't know. There's definitely a lot more people who are probably going to be playing this game versus any other time, but that said, in addition to the sort of related cards in this event, this Pick-a-Gift is a lot weirder. In other words, so the past couple Pick-a-Gifts had sort of a trend going on where they had 2 different variations of a list that they kept rotating around. One of which featured the dual crystals that you can see here, and then we had a non-dual crystal, more of a dual skill chip related list, and that's fine. They were both 8 days each. And the last time we had the dual crystals, so this time we shouldn't have expected the dual crystals. But this time we got them. And in addition to that, instead of 8 days, we've got 10 days, and 1 or 2 of the days have actually been flopped around, and what they added isn't exactly great, but nevertheless, so what do they change and what's new and what's not? So, the first 4 days are normal for the dual crystal list. You know, we got the skill chip, we had the 2 cards, perfectly fine. Day 5 and Day 7, let's just talk about that right away, because that is a very odd pick. So, on Days 5 and 7, there are just the elemental crystals. Light, dark, water, fire, earth, wind. Now, to anyone new to Duel Links, you may not know this, but back when the Pick-a-Gift first started, Day 9 on the bottom, well, one of the bottom days, actually featured a rotating set of element jewels. Whereas, they would be water, fire, earth, wind, and then they would go spell, trap, and then do something like water, wind, and then just... In other words, they would rotate around the list, which was nice, because they're mainly used for getting a card from the card trader. You need a lot of those elemental crystals to get certain mantra attributes, which is nice. But the fact that they randomly threw them in here is kind of awkward and weird. There's no sort of pattern to them, so I'm kind of wondering whether, if they decide to keep this, whether this will be swapped around every so often. Like maybe next time we'll get a dark, light, and wind on Day 5, and a trap, earth, and fire on Day 7, just to kind of rotate things around. If they were so keen to incorporate the crystals in this event, I'm kind of surprised that Day 8 and Day 2 didn't replace the rare ticket and the extra gate keys with trap and spell jewel crystals. Just kind of weird like that. Now, moving on, Day 6 is another card day. That would normally be Day 5. And then, of course, Day 7, and then Day 8 and 9, they sort of swapped around. Like the second to last day has been a card day followed by a ticket. But they swapped that to Day 8 and added the skill chip on Day 9. And the reason I'm guessing they're doing that is to sort of give you a card every other day, in other words. Day 1, there's no option for cards. Day 2, you can get a card. Day 3, you can't. Day 4, yes. And so on and so forth. And going all the way to Day 10, where you can get a super rare ticket, and that's also technically a card. So again, they probably swapped 8 and 9 because, to get a card every other day. Which is fine. It's, at least that shows some level of consistency with what they're doing, and that's just talking about the format itself. Let's talk about the cards. And first one, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, and that's Urgent Ritual Art. It's essentially, to anyone who's familiar with the 5D's anime, you know of like urgent tuning, which you can synchro summon on your opponent's turn, which is pretty cool in its own right. This essentially is a ritual summon on the opponent's turn, which can be pretty cool. I don't think there's a lot of ritual monsters that can effectively get an effect off on the opponent's turn, other than, let's say, like Dynaki or Ishani, or I'm trying to think of the Cyber Angel. But the way you do that is to banish the ritual spell from the hand or graveyard, and then it copies it, which, again, is actually pretty cool. With Duel Links having a lot more counter traps nowadays, and the ability to literally just stop your spell card right away, it's good to have a backup way to be able to do it, especially with deck spacing be very limited. If you can, like, Raigeki Break if you can use Raigeki Break to discard your ritual spell, and then Urgent Ritual Art, the ritual spell, you can get it off right away. So there's a lot more utility you can play around with. That said, if you have like a no-hand scenario, or like no cards on the field, this card is kind of dead to draw into. So that's kind of the bad problem with this card. Like, it's not bad, it's just, it can be very risky. There are cards that can very much there are ritual spells that can very much take advantage of that, such as the Vendrit ritual spells that lets you ritual summon your ritual monster from the graveyard, which, again, less resources in your hand to play off of, and just play off your field, especially Vendrit Origin. Vendrit Origin lets you banish from your graveyard, too. That's very wild. But there's also... So, again, I'm not quite sure why they just featured this card all of a sudden. It is regularly Alexis Rose level 14 drop, so probably Cyber Angel, but at the same time, they did recently release some Blackluster Soldier support. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did that to combine this with Super Soldier Synthesis, which is another ritual spell that lets you ritual summon your ritual monster from the graveyard. So again, you can pitch your ritual spell with Raigeki Break, then Urgent Ritual Art, the Super Soldier Synthesis on your opponent's turn, ritual summoning your Blackluster Soldier from your graveyard, and Super Soldier Synthesis uses the monster in your hand and from your deck. So not only does this card take advantage of your graveyard, but you can also use very less resources than what you have. So it's very nice. Again, it is a little bit situational, so it's a nice tech if you're trying to pull this off, but by itself, it can be kind of 50-50. So we'll see. I did love the fact that they added Necroft. They added some Necroft support recently, but they only gave them one ritual spell, and the idea behind that deck is that you meant to banish your ritual spell and something else from your graveyard to add another ritual spell to essentially keep going. So having only one copy is kind of annoying, and this card doesn't exactly make up for it. I'm very interested in trying some some Orcris, what is it? Orcris, the normal type ritual spell, World Chalice Necroft. I want to try that. I really do. It sounds fun. But just a bunch of dual terminal. That's enough rambling. Next up, Onikuji. Now, the name of this card roughly translates to Demon Lottery, and essentially, let's see if I'm reading this right. Your opponent, on your standby phase, your opponent guesses the top card of your next deck. If they guess it right, they draw a card. If they guess it wrong, they discard a card. So, Onikuji is not the first... Onikuji? I do not want to butcher the name of this, but this card is not the first time this is featured in a Pick-a-Gift, and it's also not the first time it's shown up in general. I believe it was part of a EX lottery recently. So, having this featured in a Pick-a-Gift is kind of a little redundant. I kind of wish they went with something else, but it's not a bad card if you're starting things off, but it is kind of gimmicky. Regardless of whatever the card you reveal is, it goes to the bottom of your deck. You can't choose that. So, I'm 50-50 on it. It either pluses your opponent or potentially pluses your opponent. There are a lot of cards that can play off graveyard effects, so it's not exactly... in some variations, in some decks, discarding certain materials from your opponent's hand can be very deadly. You can disrupt their combinations, you can disrupt their plays. It can work. Then again, you can also make your opponent draw a card, and that's also technically bad. Which, unless you're playing a deck out game. If you're playing a deck out game, you use this card. That's just being very trolly at the same time. You're getting rid of your opponent's resources, or you're making your opponent draw out the resources to essentially make them lose. So, which is kind of a trolling thing to do. Don't do that. If it's that or gems, then yeah, no duh. Just get gems. Day 6. Day 6 is very interesting. Day 6 is a Cat of Ill Omen. Now, a Cat of Ill Omen is, again, it's another trap-related support, which is weird. This is like 2 traps in a row and then a trap-related searcher. This card basically puts a trap from your deck on top of your deck when it flips. And you can already get 2 copies of this card from Ishizu Ishtar at level 18 and 35, but this is technically your chance to get a 3rd copy of the card, which, again, isn't that bad. Like, you might be able to get, like, a glossy variant sometime later down the line, or even, like, this is weird. This is completely off tangent, but I wish there was, like, a star foil or star shatter foil version of a prismatic for rare cards. Like, there are times where there are some rare cards I really want, like, a prismatic copy of, just to be very nice, but off topic aside, if it's this or super rituals, then I guess it's a good chance to get a 3rd copy. Like, why not? And then lastly, Day 8. Well, second to last, I guess. Day 8. Dimensional Exquilibriance. I cannot pronounce this card to save my life. When a beast monster you control is destroyed by battle by an opponent's attacking monster, not only can you revive it, but you can also banish your opponent's monster. Now, in certain matchups, this can be very devastating. Like, World Legacy Clash is a very devastating card because it not only makes an opponent's monster weaker than it needs to be, and then you can just straight run over for damage. This card just straight removes monsters. And with cards like, Fortunately, the Every and, oh gosh, whatever options are. With certain cards not being able to revive themselves when banished, this can be very deadly for certain monsters. Now, of course, there are cards that can just say, I don't care, like Shiranui, where they want to be banished. And then there are a lot of decks nowadays that can just straight pop back row or negate back row, or, like, the thing, like, so, I like this card. I like what this card does. The problem, though, is there's one problem that makes me just not like it, though, and that's the fact that in order to get this card off, the opponent has to attack you, which means your opponent has to already be playing recklessly, can just sort of bait your backer out, which can either cost them or they ought to have a way to be able to recover or counter this. But not only does your opponent have to be able to destroy your monster, like, you can't essentially crash your monster into the monster just to play this card, get rid of it, and get your monster back. Like, if it could do that, then this card would be great. Like, the versatility of this card would almost be worth the one turn setup. But the problem is it doesn't do that. Like, you have to literally bait them. You have to bait them with the Cat of Ill Omen in order to then in order to put a trap on top of your deck and then get your cat back and then get rid of your opponent's monster. Like, for some reason, there's a lot of troll cards here. I don't know why. Like, what is this? This is supposed to be Bunny Day, not Troll Day. Like I said, there's a lot, like, there's no bunny-related cards. Like, I don't know why. Last up but not least, Day 10. Day 10 is the hardest decision of them all. I'm not sure what I'm going to pick, but what do you think? Do you like this pick gift? Would you rather there be more of a rabbit-based card? Like, I would not complain if they put Vanilla, the vanilla bunny monster. I would not complain if they had that up here, but at the very least, like, have a theme of some sort. But any case, and not to mention, like, even with this, like, beast-related theme, where does the ritual card come into play? Like, there is, to the best of my knowledge, one beast-type ritual monster, and that's, like, Sirloin, I think it is. He doesn't really have an effect or anything. Like, every other ritual monster is either, like, a beast warrior or a wing beast. There's, like, not really a straight beast ritual monster. And I say that, and they're gonna, like, come out with, like, this exclusive card for it, but nevertheless, what do you think of this pick a gift? Do you like it, love it, hate it, or wish they went with something different? Let me know in the comments, and hope you have a wonderful day and a happy bunny day.